actionfigureresource.com. Yesterday's toys, today's treasures.
Welcome back to Action Figure Resource. I am Alex Shaw, and today I'm talking to Mr. Mike Zolotorow of Zoloworld.com. 38 years old and hailing from Pennsylvania. Hello, Mike.
Hello. Hi, how are you?
I'm good today, thank you. For the first part of this interview, I'm going to be asking you about Zoloworld protective action figure cases.
Sure, absolutely.
Around about what year and what made you want to specialize in protective casing for action figures?
I'd say it was maybe mid-2008, even before that, really, but it didn't really hit me until around 2008, or when I actually started Zoloworld, the company. But yeah, I've been collecting action figures for all my life, and there was never an adequate type of protection at all that was out there. You always had like a bubble style case. What I mean by that is it only protected the edges of an action figure, and there was nothing really, preventing that from warping inside the blister. You know what I mean? That you would be putting it into. So you're basically protecting something from dust, which is not, it's better than just having it, loose on a wall. But it never really did any justice for protecting. And I think that, one day I was cleaning my bedroom out of my folks' house, and we're moving all kinds of things around. And I remember I had bought acrylic, and one of the acrylic cases, which is a hard plastic case that's usually made, it's glue plastic, it basically holds it together, you know what I mean, that puts it together there. Yeah. And I remember that one of them kind of slipped down and hit against the floor, and it cracked the case apart and ripped the blister off the figure. Now this, and yeah, it was sad. The figure was an actual Thundercat. It was a pricey Thundercat figure, and
which one?
Mongor at the time.
Oh, man.
Mongor. And it was actually pulled from a factory sealed case. A lot of my collection was pulled from that, because back then it wasn't that expensive to buy them when I was first purchasing these. So yeah, that happened, and then we had Masters Universe. I remember going to a company long time ago and buying a bulk load of acrylic, because acrylic was my thing. You know what I mean? I loved acrylic cases, and I also was doing the like I said, the other bubble style light plastic cases that only protect the corners. Like as you know, that acrylic only is a rail style of protection that actually you slide your card up there, but then there's rules, like you have to put tissue paper in between there, and you have to be very careful, or you're going to tear the card apart as you're trying to put it in. I always said, like, wow, this doesn't make that much sense. If you're going to protect something, why do you have to go through every nook of the way here? And if it slides or something happens, this could, potentially damages, which brings me to my next thing is when I sent, I remember buying a collection off of a guy of Masters figures, and he sent them in acrylic, and 5 figures popped because the blister, the acrylic rail got underneath the blister and actually popped it right directly off the card. And this happens with AFA cases as well. Nothing against their company, it's nothing against them at all. It's just that the style of the case is, it's just like the engine, you know what I mean? You're going to go and use the same type of technology over and over again, and it's used and reused, but you're not really innovating anything. Yeah. So in 2008, I never forget this. I was at a convention, and I woke from the convention, and in my dream, I was actually making protective cases. Like that's what I did. I was and the name Zoloworld was also into the dream. And it was really funny that I tell this story, and it is actually pretty funny today, that now that I say it. But I remember it was like 2:30 in the morning, and I was just thinking the whole night, like, wow, like there's all this stuff. And I got home and I was telling my folks, oh, I'm going to start this. And they're like, oh, yeah, whatever. I wouldn't do that. You got to focus on your job and this and that. And then at the same time, I was like thinking in the back of my head, I wasn't even listening to what they were saying. It was just one direction. So I started the company. I formed all the legal papers and everything like that to make Zoloworld, a company, obviously, and then I started looking around in the different factories to do this style of case. And the style of case is, what you see today is where our cases are different than anything else out there on the market because we honestly flatten out the blister cards. So there's an area where we protect the blister. Now, not every case is a form-fitting case, but you could tell what a Zoloworld case is amongst anything else on the market. Like if you were to look at it, you would say, oh, that's definitely a Zoloworld case, or that's a Zolo case. It's a signature design that we use, and it's part of our intellectual property that we have out there.
actionfigureresource.com. Yesterday's toys, today's treasures.
So, Mike, could you give us a potted history and go into as much detail as you want of how Realm of the Underworld got started and over the years what you've been doing with this figure line?
When I started Zoloworld again, one of my intentions was always to do action figures. I've wanted to do action figures for a very long time. We had a factory overseas that we were able to work with, and went ahead and went in that direction and started the tooling for the actual figure line. And I'm a fan of figures that played with the Masters Universe and stuff like that. And this is what I wanted to develop, is something that was very reminiscent of a retro figure, of an 80s figure, but then develop it in such a way where it is of a new spin.
Let's see, 38. You are 3 years older than me, so you were only 5 when He-Man launched. What was your background in terms of your earliest toys? Because clearly this sort of thing had a major influence on you.
My earliest toys, honestly, was Mego. Believe it or not, I had a lot of the Mego action figures. So that and He-Man and Star Wars was pretty strong. The Master stuff was a huge influence, as well as the Mego action figures that they had back in the day. But growing up, I really didn't have that much money, so my folks didn't have that much money. So one of the reasons, obviously, I was going to flea markets and selling action figures was to get better action figures, again, the ones that I wanted.
How old were you when you started selling? Because that's that's something that a lot of kids wouldn't have actually had to do. So
I was probably around 6. I was 6, about 6 years old. Yeah, I was going from I was selling with my folks, and I would have my little table. I had a table in the flea market with them, and I had dealers actually come over to me and buy off of me because I had some really neat stuff. And I was buying collectibles. Like higher dollar collectibles and stuff, like a Dune sandworm in a box, or like a carded Star Wars figure, because I was buying them from people that just wanted to unload them, and at the time there was little stores opening up and people wanting to, sell this type of stuff. And now obviously it's out of control today. I mean, the price. My first real carded action figure, I believe, would have been, trying to think here, what would I have had carded? Maybe like a Star Wars figure, something like that, and I had it put away.
So your first carded figure that you actually thought to yourself, I'm not going to take this one out?
Believe it or not, it was Turtles. It was Turtles. It was Turtles and the Sorceress, the Master Universe Sorceress, the Sorceress on the card when she first came out. I think it was 86. I'm not mistaken. I think 86, 85, something like that. So yeah, that was the first one that I was like, I want to keep this. So you were 6 years old and you were like, right, key character, late in the line, female, probably going to be worth something in a few years' time. My father actually said to me, you want to keep this one. Well, we're always working on distribution. So if you know anybody in the UK that is interested in carrying the line,
gotcha.
We're always interested in picking up new affiliates and people that are willing to do this, because like I said, I mean, there is an obvious demand for these figures. I mean, if you look at completed listings online, you could see that the last series of Slime Drones really was a very popular hit. We're still asked for the character Corpse Tooth, which sold out. He sold out in 4 days. But the neat thing was just the amount of response. We're bringing out for Wave 3, we're actually, like you said, we're working on bringing out another it's going to be another 2 assortments again. It's going to be Wave 3 Assortment A, Wave 3 Assortment B, but also we're also working on Assortment C and D as well. So we want to actually make a lot of figures for everybody to have. And these are non-slime drone figures. These are going to be literal, the continuation from Wave 2 to Wave 3, because slime drones is actually Wave 2.5. Gotcha. So we wanted to bring those figures in and then grab a brand new series there. And then we're also working on another line called the Flexors, which they're fully bendable action figures. It's based off of lines, again, of the 80s, but they have interchangeable heads. So they might remind you of the Flexitrons, but the Flexitrons actually had interchangeable heads. But the difference was, the Flexitrons had interchangeable heads, but they were into each other. You couldn't go to a Spectratron to a Flexitron, whereas you're able to do that with anything with Zoloworld interchangeability. We want to be able to encompass that whole thing, as being able to move, like if you have a head of a Flexor, you'll be able to move that to a Realm of the Underworld character and vice versa. There is a lot that's going to happen with this series. I guess the biggest thing, and one of the announcements I made a couple of years ago, was that we've been working on a Neo system, which I'd call it, where you're able to interchange the arms and legs into a fully articulated action figure that stands 2 inches taller, that you can play with your modern day action figures that are 7 inches tall. So to give you the extra articulation, it kind of puts it all in a realm of itself. And it'll be like an adaptability pack that we'd allow for it. So you'd have the option of being able to go from a retro action figure to a new style action figure with a few parts.
So basically something to allow your Acromancer to stand toe-to-toe with first retro Skeletor and now classic Skeletor.
You hit it on the nose.
Got it.
Without me saying it.
There you go.
So you would be able to to stand up even with your wrestling figures or any of that stuff that you would want to do. And I think that's something that builds a whole new aspect or new dynamic to the series as well, where people would just say, well, wait a minute, this is actually interesting.
That's a really new one. I mean, I can't think of any other line that's actually done that. And
because there hasn't.
Yeah.
There hasn't.
New from the realm of the Underworld collection.
Finally! Nothing can stop me from conquering the overworld. Not if I can help it, Acromancer. Hercules! Get him, my archfiends! Oh yeah? Take that, boneface!
With interchangeability to the core, swap parts from your favorite figures to keep the battle raging.
Not so fast, Hercules. The battle had just begun.
Hercules, Acromancer, and Archfiends from the realm of the Underworld collection, each sold separately. Collect all of them from Zoloworld.